Guys, I'm going to talk to you about your dragster. So if you read the introduction, you know that your client is A-Team Racing, and we're designing this dragster because last year's model wasn't very aerodynamic and the team lost valuable seconds because of it. So we're going to go down through our design brief. Your client is A-Team Racing. The designer is you. The problem statement is last year's model was not aerodynamic and lost valuable seconds in the race. The design statement is you're going to design a more aerodynamic dragster. Your constraints for time should be less than 2 weeks, should take you to finish this project. The size should be as small as possible because smaller is lighter and we want to be aerodynamic. And the materials are 1 block of pine wood, a couple axles, and a couple wheels. So the deliverables, same as your other projects. You're going to make a concept sketch, you're going to make a 3D model in Fusion, and then you're going to build a prototype out of wood. For research, copy and paste the URL of every website you look at. Either copy the picture or write a description of what you looked at to go with the website. If you don't have that description or a picture to go with the website, you're not going to get any credit for just posting the website. You have to document what you got from that website. Your concept sketch. After you have 4 or 5 different ideas up here under research, get a piece of graph paper, get out a pencil, sketch the dragster you want to build in Fusion and out of wood. Sketch it, give it some measurements, approximately how big do you think you want to make it, and then copy and paste a picture of your sketch here. What I'm going to talk about now is your 3D model in Fusion and your dimension drawing. So I'm going to be going back and forth between this specification sheet, all these measurements. Some of these measurements are required. Some of them are recommendations. So we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Let's get into Fusion and start a sketch on the XY plane. I'm going to start with a rectangle. So R for rectangle. I want my height to be 1.25. And I'm going to click Tab on my keyboard, the Tab key, and I'm going to type 7 for the length. So I've got a 1.25 by 7 rectangle, and I'm going to hit E for extrude. When I extrude this, I'm going to extrude at 0.75. That is going to be the depth of my dragster. Now, just to make it look more like our project, I'm going to open up my bodies, and I'm going to right-click body 1, and I'm going to go to physical material. When my physical material window opens, I'm going to go down here to wood, and I'm going to scroll down till I find pine. The dragster we're going to be building is going to be made out of a piece of pine wood. So there we go, pine. Okay, now to cut my dragster out of this, I'm going to put a new sketch on top of the front face, and I'm going to use my spline tool, and I'm going to make a curved shape, and I want to make it kind of small. Then I'm going to use my line tool to come straight down on the back end, straight down, and then I'm going to come straight over to make my dragster shape. Now I'm going to type E for extrude, and I'm not going to extrude my dragster. I'm going to extrude the space that I want to cut away. I'm going to push it back so that Fusion knows I'm trying to cut it out where it says extent. I'm going to change that distance to all. I want to cut all of it away, and I'm going to click OK. Now I'm left with my dragster. So I can see that this is going to be approximately the shape I want to cut out of that wood. And I'm going to go back to my dimensions because I need to drill the holes for my axles. I need to make sure I have room for these holes. So before I cut my wood out, before I drill any holes, I'm going to drill it in Fusion to make sure that it's going to work. So the diameter of this axle hole is 5/32. And from the bottom of the wood, it should be up 5/32. So that's easy. 5/32 for the diameter, 5/32 for the distance from the bottom. So when I go to create a hole, I'm going to click on this face. I want the diameter of this to be 5/32. And I want it to go all the way through. So I'm going to change it from distance to all. And my references, I'm going to select the bottom of my dragster. I also want that reference to be 5/32. The reason this is important is because both of my axle holes, and I'm going to create the other one now, both of my axle holes should be the same distance from the bottom of my dragster. If both my axle holes aren't the same distance from the bottom, then my dragster is going to be uneven. It's not going to race very well. So this axle hole back here, I want the diameter to also be 5/32. I want it to extend through the whole dragster. I want it to say all. And for reference, I want it to be from the bottom, 5/32. Enter. There's my 2 axle holes. Now, if you notice, they go all the way through. They're nice and level. Everything is good. The next measurement that's really important, all these other measurements, these are recommended. They're not requirements. The air hole diameter, the diameter of the air hole is 25/64. It should be 1/2 inch from the bottom and 3/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch from the center of the dragster. So when I drill this hole in the backside, I'm going to create another hole, and this is for my launch. If this hole doesn't work, my dragster is not going to race at all. It's going to be ruined. So the diameter needs to be 25/64. The depth, we want this to go about 2 inches if possible. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And I want to reference from the side 3/8, and I want to reference from the bottom 1/2. So once I've got this all typed in, I can see that my hole is going to come out the top of my dragster. That is bad. If my hole is not completely contained by the wood, then my dragster is not going to race. So I can do 2 things. I can make the hole not go as deep, which will make my car not race as well. If my hole isn't as deep, I won't get as much force from the launching system. Or down here at the bottom, I can scroll back in my work tree and I can look at my dragster and I can change this profile. I can give it more space. Let's see what that does. If I click Stop Sketch and open these back up, I'm still losing a little bit of my shape. I'm going to open up that hole. So down here at the bottom, I'm going to double click that hole. And instead of 2 inches, I'm going to try and make it 1.5. Okay. Now I can see my 1.5 inch hole is totally inside the wood. I'm going to click OK. And that's better. My launch hole is totally inside the wood. And I'm going to do one more thing. Down here on the video monitor, these are display settings. So I'm going to click on the display settings and go to visual style, and I'm going to go to wireframe. If I look at this from the front, I want to make sure my launch hole and my axle hole have plenty of room and that they don't overlap. If my holes overlap, my car isn't going to race. I can't put an axle and the launching system in the same hole. They cannot overlap. And my launch hole needs to be completely inside my dragster. So this looks pretty good. I'm going to go back to the visual style and change that back to shaded. Now I'm going to save my work. I'm going to call it Dragster. And up here where it says model, I'm going to click that drop down menu and go to drawing from design. Okay. So when it loads my drawing, this is where I'm going to make my orthographic projections. I'm going to make the front view, right view, top view, and the isometric shaded view. I'm also going to add dimensions. So when I click on, it's still loading. Here we go. So up here at the top in drawing views, when I click on base view, there's my dragster. It's giving me a 1:2 scale. We want a 1:1 scale. Always make sure your scale is 1:1 because you're going to cut this out. So click your front view, and then up here where it says projected, we're going to click on our front view and come over here to project our right view, our ISO, and our top view. Right click, okay. I'm going to add dimensions. I'm going to go top to bottom and pull out my depth. I'm going to go right to left and pull straight up. Make sure you come straight up. There we go. Straight up for my width. and top to bottom straight over for my height. There's my dimensions.